Welcome to the Inspiration North podcasts, inspiring stories from inspirational people and how they found their passion, their true north. I'm James Eves.
And I'm Michelle Minikin, and this is the Inspiration North podcast.
Today's episode, Always Moving Forwards, with Greg Johnston. We talk about a decision they made to ensure that Evie's life has a positive impact on the world, stopping and reflecting on how much you have achieved, having compassion for yourself and others, you don't know what they're going through, and the amazing impact Team Evie has had on the lives of thousands of children and families.
Greg was a primary school teacher in Cumbria until the birth of his first daughter, Evie. Evie was born with multiple serious cardiac, respiratory and digestive problems, and after 6 months spent mainly in the RVI, she sadly passed away. Greg and his wife Jill created the charity Team Evie to ensure that Evie had a positive impact on the world and to help families who face similar challenges to those they faced along with Evie. Greg now works full-time as chief executive of the charity, which over the 4 years since Evie died has raised over £300,000 and helped thousands of sick children and their families in the northeast and Cumbria.
So Greg, could you tell us a bit about the lovely Evie?
I'd love to, yeah. So during Jill's pregnancy with Evie, it was diagnosed that something wasn't right, and we were referred over to the RVI to see the specialist team, where they discovered that initially that the issues were with her heart, and that it was a combination that they hadn't seen before of no wall in between the two chambers in her heart, and heart was on the wrong side of her body, and various other vein and artery complications. So we were aware from that point that she was going to need surgery that was very serious to enable her to manage. And then later on in the pregnancy, it became apparent that something else wasn't right, as Jill looked like she was carrying triplets, basically, because they realised that Evie was unable to swallow, which was an issue that they also said is fixable, or there's an operation that could sort out that problem for her. So Evie was born in March 2015 at the RVI, and it was confirmed everything that had been diagnosed antenatally. So she had an operation on the day she was born to correct the TOF, as they call it, which is a tracheoesophageal fistula, which basically connects her windpipe to her stomach. So it was discovered in that operation that actually she couldn't be connected back up, a long gap as they call it, and she wasn't able to swallow still, so which is obviously life-threatening in that she can't get rid of the saliva out of her mouth, it's in danger of drowning all the time, so that we'd be in hospital for the long term. And basically at every point for Evie, she had digestive, cardiac and respiratory conditions. It was always the worst option, when we were presented with a situation of this might happen, or we might have to intervene and she might have to have another operation. It always seemed to be that worst option, that she needed more help. And she went through, she started on the special care unit, or the SCABU ward at the RVI, and then was moved to intensive care, and that's where she spent 6 months, really. There was lots happened during that time, back and forth to the Freeman for the heart operations that she had, and then her respiratory and digestive care was at the RVI. So it was obviously a life-changing situation for us, because we went from, going back to the early pregnancy, expecting our first child, to suddenly we're looking at long-term in hospital with a critically ill child, doing everything we could because we wanted to get her out of there and get her well and get her home, but it was all too much for her. We managed to get her home for 3 weeks in that 6-month spell, and which was amazing. She'd been through so much, and went to the operating theatre 14 times in a short life. But to get her home for 3 weeks, she managed before she was too ill and needed to be transferred back for expert care. And yeah, it was incredible to take her home and show her our house. And then when she was transferred back, it became apparent that as she was growing, this is very layman term medicine, I guess, but my understanding of it, that she was growing and her system wasn't growing with her. So she wasn't able to cope really with, she had what they call pulmonary vein stenosis, which is sort of narrowing of the veins. So we were offered at this point in the journey that either she would be kept comfortable until she wasn't able to manage, or that there was a high risk operation that we could try, and we went for that. We are very positive people, myself and my wife Jill, and Evie's personality was very much strong-willed, very determined, and we knew that the right thing to do was to try and do everything we could for her. And she never really recovered from that operation. It was a massive operation, and her heart and her digestion and her lungs never recovered from that. So in September 2015, everything got too much for her, and she died. Very much we felt and still feel that was her decision. That yes, we had the discussion with the doctors and made the decision to withdraw care, but Evie had enough of fighting by that point. She'd been through so much, as I say, 14 trips to theatre, and so much happened to her in a short life. I have to say, if you look at photographs of her, you would have no idea.
No, you don't. They're always beautiful smiles, and it just looks like a very chirpy, happy soul.
Yeah, she's, obviously there was lots of days where she'd been to theatre and she wasn't well. It's just, she was such a lovely little baby, and you could tell that she also embodied that positivity. And we always used to report back, I guess it's a very strange world spending so much time in hospital, especially in an intensive care environment, but we would feed back through social media to tell friends and family what was happening each day. And we also used to finish it by saying, always moving forwards, as that was very much her ethos. Not that she made that decision, but you could, no matter what was happening, how challenging a day was, she always seemed to do something that we could hang our hat on and say, yeah, but that happened this afternoon, or she's managed to do that, or she's had some sleep, or there was always something that gave us a positivity, and we made sure that we approached life in hospital with her like that as well, which I think was very important. And we discussed with the doctors this idea, before she was born, of you can never account for the will of the baby. And my word, you could never account for the will that Evie showed when she was here. She was amazing, inspiring, and an incredible little girl, who still makes me incredibly proud every day.
And it sounds like the staff as well at the hospital became big fans of hers because of that chirpiness and the approach of keep moving forwards. And
yeah, the staff in the RVI in intensive care are Evie's family and our family, and they hold her very dear still. She was on there for so long, and it's such a strange, as I say, strange environment and a strange experience that before you know about the world of children being ill for a long time, or even child loss, you just think you take your baby home and everyone comes around and visits them, whereas suddenly we were in an intensive care environment and our family could visit, but not all the time and not as much as they would.
No, because it's a distance as well, isn't it?
Yeah, so the staff therefore become your family as well, because they're there all the time. They understand this crazy world of, you can be really upbeat and positive in the morning because the settings on the ventilator have changed and everything's looking really positive, but by 2:00 in the afternoon suddenly Evie's critically ill, she needs an operation because something's changed. And it's impossible to explain that, the emotions that go with that, and how difficult it is, and how much of a knife edge you're living on to someone who hasn't experienced it. But the staff know that because that's their day-to-day life, so they just become your little group of people who help you and understand, and take on Evie as their own, which is very much what happened. And the staff said the intensive care at the RVI is so lovely and very much part of our family.
I would take my hat off to such people, because I often think I don't know that I could cope in such roles on a day-to-day basis. So I've got great admiration for those that work in medicine and especially in intensive care and more critical situations. So you talked about this key date in September of sadly Evie passing away. Now, we've talked previously about a pivotal moment at that time. What were your thoughts at that moment?
As I said earlier, we're both very positive in how we approach things. So, and have been all my life certainly, that everything will be okay. We can sort everything out, and that's how we approached the time in hospital with Evie. So there was always, right, let's work to Tuesday because that day she's having an operation and that's going to improve things. Or let's get to Friday then because she might be off the ventilator then, and then that's a big step. And everything was always about that moving forwards positivity. When Evie died, we made a decision very quickly and said, okay, we've got to make sure that Evie has a positive impact on the world and that everything around her that surrounds her life is positive, rather than it be negative, people feeling sorry for her, for us, that it's a positive impact. And that, not that we created it at that very moment, but that then became Team Evie, our charity, and the support that we got immediately for wanting to do that for her was incredible. We asked for donations at the celebration of a life that we had to start Team Evie, and what we wanted to achieve was to buy a portable heart monitor. That Evie had one of those when she was at home with us for the community nurses in West Cumbria, and to support the wards at the RVI where Evie lived. Within weeks, maybe even sooner than that, we'd surpassed the £5,000 that stipulates you need to register as a charity. So we were up and running, and we had ourselves a registered charity by, I think our certification was the start of November 2015, and we were able to do so much. We bought the heart monitor straight away, started buying things for the RVI, and Evie's legacy was created. You know, the green heart, that's our logo, green being a favourite colour, and you may notice it's on the wrong side of my t-shirt because her heart was on the wrong side. And then we just threw ourselves into it. I think, especially for us, we've been through such an intense experience with her in intensive care, that focus of let's get to Tuesday, let's get to Friday, let's get to the next operation, let's make sure that we do that. Evie died and we still had that mindset and that determination to be doing something for her, and I guess became obsessed with it, because the grief of losing a child's all consuming, impossible to explain to someone, and us throwing ourselves into raising money, buying things to make a difference for families like us, children like Evie, was the thing. And it's incredible that we got so much support from so many people to help us to make a success of it and create that legacy. And we are here now 4 years down the line. And one of the things I'm most proud of is that every conversation that we have about Evie is a positive one, which is a really strange thing to have achieved given that my daughter's died. But the conversations I have about her are people saying, isn't she brilliant? Look at all the people she's helped. It's amazing, really, because I don't get the sense that we get people feeling sorry for her, sorry for us, and coming back to that initial moment like you described it. We've achieved that and helped thousands of children and families during that road and that journey, and are still going strong.
And then I seem to remember in just, what is it now, just over 4 years? We'll get into that, isn't it? You hit quite a big milestone in your fundraising, didn't you?
Yes, we've just passed £300,000 money raised, which is
Fantastic.
We're not very good at reflecting on what we've achieved, because even 4 years down the line, we're still so obsessed with moving forwards and being more successful and growing and helping more people and doing more. But when you see a number like 300,000 come up on your spreadsheet, it makes you stop and think, whoa, actually look at what we're achieving, which is amazing and forces you to do that reflection. So it's, especially given it was £1,500 for a SATS monitor, which is what we wanted to achieve to start with, to be so far down the line from that and things be going so well is incredible. And actually now a lot of the donations that we make are actually saving children's lives. You know, from a start point of to make time in hospital easier, which we still very much do, to help parents looking after their sick children at home, which we still very much do. But as we develop and grow and raise more money and are able to spend bigger amounts of money, the feedback we're getting is that is meaning that children's lives are being saved, which is you can't put a price on that.
No, you certainly can't. And it's, maybe you could describe a bit as well about the experience of, because you're obviously from the northwest, you're coming across to, if you don't know the RVI, it's a hospital in Newcastle in the northeast. So there's travel involved, there's disruption. It's, how would you sort of describe that to someone who's not experienced care in that way?
Yeah, we were very lucky. I always feel a bit strange saying that, given the circumstances we were in, that I lived in Newcastle for 10 years. Jill's from Gateshead, and so when we uprooted and Jill came across in an ambulance when she wasn't very well a couple of days before having Evie, it didn't feel as alien because we were coming to Newcastle, which is Jill's home, my second home. I'm very lucky that I have a very supportive family, so I asked them to bring such and such, bring some of our possessions. They just would do it. Jill's family based in Gateshead, they can pop over, yeah. So, but we support families and look after families that a child's we were aware that Evie was going to be poorly. If a child's involved in an accident in Cumbria, the parents drop everything and go, get in the ambulance with them, and they may be very quickly transferred across to the RVI, and they've got nothing with them. And it is such a stressful alien environment to be in, with all the machines, the noises, the nurses, the doctors, the physios, the surgeons, everybody talking to you, and you've just arrived somewhere hundreds of miles from home. So we support families in that situation. There's a team, Nectar they're called, Northeast Children's Transfer and Retrieval, and their base is at the Old General Hospital in Newcastle. So they, in that instance, they are the team that collects children from across the region to bring them to the RVI. So they provide parents with our parent bags, which have everything you need to get through a few days, basically toiletries and such like, that are a godsend. They've been described by parents, because it is impossible to describe that situation and maybe even to imagine yourself in it. But if you're transferred, you've been taken into hospital with your child, you're transferred, you end up a day, 2 days later, sitting in a very serious meeting with a team of doctors, and you haven't washed for 2 days, you haven't washed your hair, you haven't got your hair in a bobble, you don't feel as equipped and ready and prepared and alert and all of those different things, whereas actually somebody's saying, right, there's a bag of things that'll sort you out.
Something you don't have to think about really, but it's small items that make a big difference.
And again, like I said, we're in the position where family were available, but if you're a single parent who doesn't have support and you end up 150 miles away from home, you don't have people there who can do that for you. And as I say, it was described by somebody as a bag with everything in that I needed to make me feel human. Or even to the one bit of feedback that we had was a little girl from Carlisle who had meningitis. She was rushed across, and she was being sick a lot and upset, and just said, just want to cuddle off my mum, I just want to sit on my mum's knee. And she said, I can't, I've got my hair. If I had a bobble. And at that point, her husband opened the bag and said, like this one. And that, I don't know how much the bobble cost us, not very much.
No.
changed that situation, that suddenly all that girl who was suffering with meningitis wanted was to sit on her mum's knee, and she could, which makes all the difference. So hopefully, yeah, through that's our start point really with supporting families. At the time they're rushed into hospital, we're there with the parent bags to have that support, to just get people through the first couple of days. And if you're in a situation where you may just be in a few days and transferred somewhere else, or if it's going to be a long-term situation, well, you've had time to find your feet and work out how you're going to get your things, I guess, for the long term.
Yes, the last thing you want to think about is, I need to nip to Superdrug or Boots to get some deodorant.
Well, exactly, yeah, that's it. Parents need to be able to focus 100% of their attention on their child. What has happened? What condition, injury are we dealing with? What's the treatment? What questions do I need to ask? What information am I getting off doctors? That's all they need to think about, and hopefully just buy a bag of things that cost us £10 a bag. We can just eradicate any of that stuff that isn't important but makes a massive difference to help them concentrate on the important things.
Okie dokie, so parent bags, what else?
We also then do a lot. We now support, which as I said, it's grown exponentially. We've got 15 different medical teams across Newcastle and Cumbria. So we're Whitehaven Hospital, Carlisle Hospital and Barrow Hospital now. And the initial aim, as I said, was to make time in hospital easier, from the experience of a long-term family as we were, that, say, televisions with DVD players, iPads for the children, sensory equipment. For example, on the ward where Evie was, the big long string of sensory lights, there was one, and there was another girl in the unit who always had those because of the condition she had. That was great for her. And we always thought, if Evie could have a go with those, she would love them. But there wasn't another set. So we gave them 3 and said, there you go, no, the baby needs to worry about that because there'll always be one.
Yeah.
But then, again, as we quickly grew, we could provide so much more stuff. So we provide portable libraries, for example, that are filled with 600 plus books, because we were both teachers by trade. We would read to Evie all the time, doing the silly voices, acting it out. And we sort of looked like the nutters of the ward. You can understand parents being shell-shocked, sat with a child on a ventilator, in an incubator, all the different situations. But for us, because Evie was born there, we were parenting. But Jill looked into why you should read to a child in hospital after we'd left. And it's incredible, the benefits of it, that actually hearing, even if a child's unconscious, hearing a family member read to them helps to calm them, helps them to recover quicker. It helps a family to feel more normal. You can ignore the doctors and nurses, bells and whistles and all that's happening, or it encourages all the family to be involved. Siblings might sit and read a story and suddenly it's not a scary hospital. I'm reading a book to my brother. So we provide, I think we've done 12 of those across the region so far. Different physiotherapy equipment, which I don't think you appreciate the importance of physiotherapy and physiotherapists, especially in an intensive care environment, but some of the stuff that they really wanted to be able to help children that didn't have, so we've provided, and it costs a lot of money. We've also upgraded or updated or changed the family rooms both in Whitehaven and Carlisle, so that they're a nice place to go for parents when their child's asleep, having treatment in the operating theatre. It's a horrible time to deal with as a parent. So by providing a nice space, hopefully it's a bit easier. Or if there is an opportunity for them, as I say, when a child's sleeping, to relax for 10 minutes by reading a magazine and having a coffee on a comfortable sofa, we've provided that as well. I guess from a child taken ill or being in an accident through their time in hospital, wherever that may be in our region, we also then support in the community, so with the Cumbrian community nurses, so that parents who look after their poorly child at home, which is increasingly so becoming the situation, that there's a lot of community care rather than in hospital care, by providing SAT monitors, which we had with Evie. So if her oxygen levels dropped in the night, it would alarm and wake us up, else we wouldn't have gone to sleep without, if we didn't have that machine to help us. And we also provide say, all the toys for special baby groups in the community. So the nurses run those. We provide all the kit. So parents who have got a child who maybe is oxygen dependent, is fed through a tube, has a heart condition, can know it's a safe place, not only from the perspective of there's medical staff there, but they don't need to worry about somebody saying, why has he got that on his face, or why is he a different colour, or why is she fed that way, or you don't need to worry because everyone understands. So all the issues that people have in taking their poorly child, or if they've got a chronic illness, to a normal, for want of a better word, playgroup, they don't have to worry about that. And we also have our bereavement support aspect of the charity as well. So in the aftermath, I guess, or the short term after a baby has died, we provide what we call a respite retreat, where at the moment we find a cottage for a family and provide time there, which somebody did for us actually through the parent accommodation we stayed in at the RVI. They got in touch and said, is there a family that would benefit? And they gave us a cottage in Northumberland. And in that initial time after the loss of your child, there isn't anything anybody can say to make it feel any better or make you feel different. And yet people try.
Well, they do, yeah.
And I think for us, it was beneficial in that we just took ourselves away from the world and went to a cottage on the beach with the dog. And if we wanted to sit and cry for 3 hours, we would. Or if we wanted to take our mind off it and go for a walk or watch the telly, we would. And we didn't have to worry about anything else going on in the world or day-to-day life. So we provide that for other families, with the long-term goal being that we will own our own cottage so that we can tailor the support that we offer at that time a bit more. We also have an annual candlelit remembrance walk in the Lake District to remember babies that have died, and other support as well, but it's changing at the minute, so difficult to commit on what we do. But so hopefully right through that journey from a child taken ill, their time in hospital, being looked after at home, or in the situations where a child dies, we support the parents. So throughout the full journey, as a charity, we're there helping.
So it's interesting that you said that you only wanted to raise a certain amount of money, and that always moving forward. Do you ever just stop and sort of look back and realise how much, and count the number of people you've helped? No.
Not as much as we should. No, I think we're so driven. It's I work for the charity now, so it is my job, but it's such a personal passion for all of us that are involved, because it's for Evie, and for me, it's my parenting of Evie. That's what I can do for her. She isn't here, but I can do the charity work for her. So no, we don't ever stop, and can receive criticism for that, in terms of doing too much, I guess, that we all do. But that drive and determination that not only we have, but that she had, and as an organisation we have, it's difficult to look back, isn't it? Because you're so focused on, well, if we could raise this much, we could do this, and if we could help these amount of people. And in terms of the numbers, that's a really interesting point, because, for example, when I'm filling in applications for grants to different businesses, sometimes they say, how many people will this help? And I think, actually, I've not sat down and thought, how many people will that... And I can't work it out. I just know it's thousands upon thousands, because, say, the parent bags, we do them in batches of 100, and we've done a lot of those over the last 4 years. We do parent bags for the Skaboo ward in Whitehaven that have different things in, that we do in batches of 100. The book libraries, for example, PICU last year, I think, had 600 plus admissions. So that's 600 families have access to that each year for 4 years. But we support 15 different medical... it just, the math starts getting out of hand, It does, yeah. That it's difficult to know for each individual donation that we've made to a different team or ward, how many people that's gone on to help. But it's pretty incredible that actually we can't put our finger on the number because it's so big.
Lots.
Yeah.
That's the easiest answer.
Yeah.
Loads.
But unfortunately, it doesn't wash on a financial application, but... Maybe I'll just start putting that in capitals.
LOTS. Okay, so throughout this, how have you kept yourself, your family, your wife well mentally? And how do you keep that positivity
Good question. I've never lost my positive outlook through it all. And I think through the experiences we've had, or challenges we've faced probably more accurately, we've realised how important mental health is and how challenging it is and how vulnerable you are once you've got a weakness, I guess. I don't everyone's different, aren't they? Mm-hmm. So my troubles start, for example, when I'm tired. You become a bit more sensitive to things, yet I'm not very good at stopping when I'm tired. So I think in terms, I would hope Jill would say the same. I'm very lucky to have Jill in that we look out for each other. We can spot when things are too much. But there isn't a lot of stopping time in our life. We've had 2 daughters since Evie. So we've got a 3-year-old, a 1-year-old and an English pointer, which...
It's really most
so
always the dog.
Yeah. So anyone that has experience of one of those will know what I'm talking about. But there isn't stopping time at all, because even trying to cope with 2 children and the hairy one, it's bedlam all the time. But we're also trying to run a charity as well. And yes, I work for the charity day to day, but Jill's the chair and is as involved as me, and our family are trustees as well. So it's just sort of non-stop. And I think that's how we like life to be. And I guess when you mention mental health, and it is something that's very important to us, our defence mechanism probably is let's not stop. Yeah, let's just keep on going and be as busy as we can. Keep everything positive. Keep moving. When the children are asleep and the dogs stop eating things that it shouldn't be. Well, there's plenty of charity things that we could do on top of day-to-day work. And I can always remember so Evie died at the end of September. That first Christmas, a local newspaper writing an article about us. So that's nearly 3 months into running the charity. Mm-hmm. And she said, you're going to have to be very careful because you're going to burn out if you keep going at this rate. Like, I'm really worried for you, the way that I can see that you're doing so much. Yet, if anything, it's doubled the workload since then. And we're 4 years down the line and we're still going strong-ish. So, yeah, it's
almost a different type of stress, isn't it? It's that big goal.
Yeah.
That's bigger than yourself. You're helping a lot of people. It's positive stress, not necessarily.
Yeah, it is. It's
negative stress.
Yeah, it's. I'm on board with that because I'm trying to be positive about everything, and I'm not really certainly before we had Evie, didn't do stress. I do appreciate it. Well, I don't, but I understand it, shall we say, now. But that positivity is my overriding thing. It does create worry though, because there is so much to do and life is so busy that it isn't always easy to achieve everything that you want to achieve. And I think I'm one of those people, I hope that to type in, I'm not just out on my own, that I start every day with the goal or the outlook that I'm going to complete my to-do list today. So it's a lot of work, but I'm going to get through it all. And I've got 20 things on my to-do list, and then it gets to bedtime, and there's 28 on it, and I never get to the. So I can G myself up into a bit of worry and stress about the fact that I'm not doing enough, and I'm not making enough progress. Whereas actually, as I say, I'm very lucky to have Jill, because she'll say, "Well, hang on a second, can we just look at how much money's coming in? Can we just look at how much we've bought, how many families we're helping? Look at that email you got yesterday off a family," to help do a bit of a reality check. Yeah. But I think you've got to have that. The day when you think, well, it's okay, I'll just relax, I think is a negative day,
Yes.
There's almost I'm exactly the same. I never look back, never look at what's been achieved. So I've started to do, there's a to-do list, which I'll have, say, in red, and then my to-done list, I change the colour to the thing in black font.
Right.
So then I can actually see, well, yes, I've added another 45 things to this Word document. Michelle's given me 10 things to do. But I can at least, I have to stop myself and say, well, okay, we've not done as much as I'd like, but I've managed to tick off 6-7 things today. So my thing has often been, it's not good enough. It's not good enough today, James. We could have done another 10 things.
Yeah.
But I've had to catch myself in the moment and say,
I've gone, dude. You've
Yeah.
done so much.
I think as well, I like to do a job properly, which doesn't lend itself to doing a lot quickly, you know. So I guess that's a challenge as well, in that I think, right, I need to do those 10 things today.
Yeah.
But actually all I've achieved this morning is I've finished the design of this flyer that's going out. But it looks great.
Yeah.
But it's because I've made sure that there's the same millimetres on each side of that circle, you know, like, which probably wouldn't make any difference if it went out and it was. But I know that everything, and again, it's so personal that it's got Evie's heart on it.
Yes.
So I can't have anything go out and somebody say, "Oh, look at that," because it has to be perfect, because it's hers and it's for her and it's got her name on. So I guess I set myself all these hurdles all the time. And well, I know, say from emailing you, you're the same because you email at like 11:15 of a night, that you can't stop, you know, and that's the same. It's I don't know what job you could do that you'd go and you turn up and you work from 9 till 5 and you come home and you leave the desk.
Tesco's. Working in Tesco's, you're not going to take your shopping with you home.
There you go. So and that's work, and it work stays at work, and you come home and that's your time. Everything we do and everything I do all day is just looking after my girls. It's just that working's looking after Evie and her legacy. So it never switches off. You know, it's sort of the working day will finish. Jill gets home from school, being a teacher, and we talk about everything that's happened in the charity all for the day. And then at night time, we do some more jobs around the charity, and it's just 24 hours a day. But I guess I've never had my own business, but it's a very similar feeling, I would imagine, that that is what I do. It's my passion. So it doesn't matter if I need to email someone at that, whether it's 6 a.m. or 11 at night, because I love it.
And that's the big difference. It's when, this is why places like France have brought in laws that you can't be emailing after 6 p.m. or expect your employees to be on email. I think it's a different kind of pressure, isn't it? And we often find actually that we might get to early afternoon, had lunch, and it's like total post-lunch slump, which productivity is like zilch. But by the time we get to sort of 8, 9 in the evening, it's like, oh, I've been watching this video about such and such. Or I was sat last night designing content for what we could do for the launch of this podcast, and it was, you know, choosing images, and I was wanting to make sure it was good and good quality and get your thoughts on it before we release it. But it's because it's energizing, because there's a passion, and you can see the good it's doing in the world. It's not even a balance, is it? It's because it's a passion and driven by that. I don't see that as stress. Now, we do have people that say to us, you can burn out linking to your passion, but then I think it becomes listen to your body. Actually, I think I need a nap this afternoon, and then a nap, because I am not 100%, and I know that if I'm not well, I'm not going to perform at the same level. So I think you kind of, as long as you're recognizing, and you've got someone in the form of Jill, Michelle sort of keeps on at me for pushing too much, I think you can make it work. It shouldn't really matter that we're doing things late at night or early in the morning.
That's it. It's balancing everyday life around it as well. I am more than aware that I'm really lucky to work for the charity as I do, because I can work in the morning and then I can pick up Imani, our second daughter, from school, and I have the afternoon with her.
Yes.
And Ine, our third, as well. And then they go to bed and I can start work again.
Yeah.
Because I've got that option. Whereas if I was in Tesco's, your example, I couldn't just say, do you mind if I just go home for 6 hours and I'll come back later to finish this? Because that's not how that job works.
So where's Greg gone? Like,
yeah, just a big massive queue.
This bread needs stacking.
So I'm more than lucky in one way, I guess. Cause
it's the flexibility, isn't it? So I do exactly the same. So I have to pick up my little boy from school and, you know, spend a couple of hours with him, put him to bed, and then get back on it again. Yeah,
but time gets eaten up so easily as well, you know. You start, whatever time, and you think, right, I'm going to do 3 jobs. But I've said the perfectionist thing doesn't help, and then suddenly it's 3 hours later and you've done 1, or nearly done 1. And as I say, using Jill's reflective techniques to just say, well, let's have a look, actually, is everything going really well? Is it a success? Yeah, and that should be reward enough or evidence enough to suggest everything's okay, but then I can quickly just flip back into, well, are all the events full? Nope. Better get onto that then. But yeah, hopefully, like you said about it being driven or such a positive thing, hopefully that's what brings people with us, that they can see it's for Evie and it is such a personal driven thing, but that the end goal of it is changing lives for people. And that's one challenge that we're slowly overcoming. For the example I always use, which is it happened one day, but it's still a bugbear. Taking collection pots around Keswick, and I said, "Oh, you have a collection pot in your shop for us?" And a woman said, "Well, no, we do local things, so we have mountain rescue." I thought, "Well, I'm more than aware how amazing mountain rescue are. However, if your child or grandchild is in an accident or is taken seriously ill tomorrow, who's looking after the family? It's us, and getting that awareness on everyone's part of what we're trying to achieve and how it helps so many people right across our region. It's difficult, but hopefully we're getting there."
From all of these experiences then that you've had in the last four and a bit years, is there anything you think you could share with your younger self from lessons that you've learned?
I think, yes, I've certainly learnt a lot and changed as a person, certainly after the experiences we've had. I think my advice would be around the theme of understanding people a bit more, and that you don't know what people are going through or how they cope when they are going through something. I don't think I could have ever understood that when I was younger, because I just went through life with my positive hat on, saying everything's going to be all right and everything's fine and I'm having a good time. But that isn't how life works. And until you experience something that's so life-changing or difficult or challenging, you can't understand those emotions and feelings. And for everyone in their life, personally, different situations present different levels of challenge. And I don't think I in any way would have had an appreciation for that as my younger self. And I guess appreciation of that mental health. I know we've spoken about that already, but I was very much of the opinion that, well, I'll deal with that myself, thank you very much. Don't need any assistance, until we were getting to the lowest of the low times and being offered somebody to talk to suddenly was an option of hope, or there's somebody can help me here. And immediately as I started talking to someone, I felt the weight lifting off my shoulders and have gone on to have support to deal with everything. And clearly I have no issue discussing that and sharing that, but my younger self definitely would have. And understanding that other people might feel the same as me based on different experiences in their life, that they might be struggling and it might not be something that you would struggle with, but that doesn't mean it isn't worth struggling over, almost, Yeah. I guess just to understand people a bit better, but can you do that unless you've experienced certain things in life? I don't know. I think that's always a tricky question, isn't it? If you were to speak to your younger self, well, your younger self's...
Would they even listen?
Well, true. They are immature and they haven't experienced life. And actually, what a great position to be in. We often talk about people who haven't experienced a child being ill or child loss, and how they can be very cavalier, I think would be a good description of it. For example, in a pregnancy, announcing it to the world on Facebook very early. And you think, I've seen the world of what can happen. But then I think, well, good for them. What a lovely place they're in, that ignorance is bliss. And they're having a lovely time, and that is really exciting and wonderful for them. And just because I've seen the other side of life or what can happen, that doesn't mean that everyone has to understand that and worry about it. With our two daughters we've had since Evie, the pregnancies were terrifying because we now know everything that can go wrong at every stage. So it's a strange one, isn't it? Because you think, my younger self, I think, good on him, he's having a lovely time and he doesn't know the strains of the world, but it would probably benefit him to know that other people are dealing with them.
Yeah.
No, that's great.
If that makes sense.
Totally. Very similar to other ones we've had. So Fee Monroe said something very similar, that other people have got their big stuff, and understanding and sort of almost that compassion and you don't know what people are going through. You know, they could be looking like they're having the best time in the world.
Yeah.
But, you know, underneath there could be all sorts of stuff they're dealing with, and you just never know.
Yeah, I've just been discussing compassion. I've just been to the RVI. I don't know how much to describe about it, but talking to the staff about our experiences as parents, basically, and I've crowbarred in or managed to fit it into 8 words where I say, this is what I need as a parent that's got a child that's ill. I need these 8 things from you. The last one being compassion. And actually what I say to them is the same as anyone in their life, regardless of what happens in their life, when they hit that difficult time, all you need is compassion. But also discuss the difference between empathy and compassion, and how they're very different, and how one benefits everyone, which is compassion, and one that doesn't really benefit anyone at all, which is empathy. So, yeah, you're absolutely right.
Excellent. Tell us about some of the exciting events that are coming up that people can get involved in.
Coming up in the next couple of months, we have our annual Christmas book appeal starting at the end of November. I mentioned earlier about the portable libraries that we provide to children's wards, filled with 600 plus books. So each Christmas we load up all of the books that we have on our library on the website and run a campaign to say, when you're doing your Christmas shopping, why not purchase a book for our latest donation? So you go onto our website, pay the amount that we pay for the book, and then when that's added to the trolley, it says this book was provided by Team Evie thanks to the generosity of Michelle, and your name goes onto it. So we're donating it to the Jigsaw Children's Hospice at Carlisle this year. So that will be forever on there, and they'll know it's from you. And rather than it be for one child in hospital, it's for hundreds and thousands of children that will get the opportunity to read that book. We also have a Santa Dash, which is a new event for us this year in Workington in Cumbria on the 15th of December, which should be good fun with everyone gets a Santa hat and about a mile-long fun run, and then lots of games and festive food and activities going on in Workington Cricket Club, which hopefully should be a fun day and raise some money.
Lovely.
Sounds good.
See James like thinking, what am I doing?
I might
on
free
that
that day. Get my, I don't know, Santa hat. Can't wear an elf hat to that.
Come and be one of our elves if you want.
We'll see when it is. So that's been a really good overview of the wonderful Evie, the legacy that you're building with the charity. So if that's of interest, whether you're an individual, a corporation that would like to get involved, you'd like to attend an event, what's the best platform to find you on social media?
We're on all the main social medias. If you search for Team Evie or Team Evie Charity, we will pop up there. We've just started our page on LinkedIn, and obviously our website of teamevie.org. All the information and contact is on there also.
Wonderful. It's been great chatting with you today, Greg, and thanks so much for sharing your story.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone for listening. Check out all the show notes at inspirationnorth.com. Join us again for the next episode when we'll be chatting to another inspirational person. If you like this, subscribe and tell your friends. If you didn't like this, subscribe anyway.
And tell everybody.